Let's lock onto that Insano cam and get this underway in the top right. Spawning in the red trunks, he is Blysk.
That's right, represented by Resurgence. An apt name for this old school name. And represented by Block Sport Lions, the UK/New Zealand import, it is RiSky. You know what? Quite a bit of manners at the beginning of this game. Everyone seems very happy to play each other. Love hearts, even.
Yeah, it's been pretty nice. I think it's something that Blysk and I were talking about on the weekends. This region doesn't really have a villain at the moment. Everybody is quite friendly, quite mannered, and you know, it reflects in the games. Maybe not in the Discord servers after a loss.
Yeah, the Discord servers post-loss are definitely a different environment. Bring in your radiation suits. It can get a little toxic. But that's no, it's cool, right? That's right. This opening from Blysk is already a bit interesting, Zeph. This isn't just a one-gate expand. You know, normally you get the gateway, you go across the map with a probe, and then you get the Nexus and the Cybercore. Blysk is going 2-gate Cybercore before Nexus. And most Zergs, I mean, they're not going to drone scout. They're going to rely on the Overlord to get across there, which means Blysk is already going to have 2 gates worth of production nice and early here. He's going to look, it looks like he's just going to wait for that Cybercore to finish up, so he's not going to, you know, go for a weird sort of zealot walk across the map kind of opener. It is just going to be, I think, probably straight into a couple of depths to try and get into the drone line of RiSky.
Yeah, one thing I've really been liking about Blysk's play is that he loves to be out on the map at all times. Doesn't matter what width. Doesn't have to be a huge force. It might just be a couple of units or 4 stalkers, what have you. He loves to be out and about, poking around, keeping an eye on things. And I think that's going to really help him out against someone like RiSky. You need to understand where he's at with his economy, if he's going to come do some sort of big Roach Ravager attack that a lot of Zergs still like to do. Because I think that's where I see Blysk fall apart a lot, is when he's under siege by a lot at once.
Like it's just not able to keep up with several tasks at once. You mean like multitasking errors, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Because I think like from memory against Ender did something like a Ling drop, which is very unusual, right? And at the same time he was sort of attacking in to the natural and not really letting up pressure, which sort of ruined Blysk's plan for the game. And I think that sort of stuff really helps when you're playing against Blysk to throw him off. So the Adepts do come in here. They did a little bit, but yeah, they do get picked up.
Yeah, I actually didn't really like that at all for Blysk. He went for the 2-gate opener, he delayed his natural Nexus, and I mean, he turned down for what? There wasn't a whole lot done there. 3 drones going down for a gimped economy. I'm not actually a big fan of that from Blysk. You can see that he is switching gears. Robo Twilight Council on the way here. You can start heading towards, you know, maybe something in the something of the Archon variety into the robotics facility, or even just loading up some earlier gateway units here. RiSky, okay, he is actually keeping that drone count very low, and he's resting that finger on that R button, Zeph.
Yes, and of course, after we talk about how much of a macro Zerg he is, he decides that he's going to do away with that for the moment. And he's actually going to go straight into Roach. And I believe Blysk is going for a strategy he did against Ender as well, which is the Storm drops. And I'm not sure that might work here, because he's got to have some units to defend against this with.
Yeah, and I think that's the real problem here for Blysk, is he's teching up right now. He's not producing units. He doesn't have a lot of gateways. He's got 2 more on the way. You know, so he does want to go on the Archons, but I feel like when you don't have any Immortals here, you haven't got a whole lot of shield batteries. If RiSky can get rid of the Adepts, the Roaches are just going to have a field day here. Look at the army supply difference. It's so much in favor of the Zerg, and in come those Ravagers. This looks very bad for Blysk already.
Yeah, it's going to be really rough. Both those pylons are right next to each other, so piles can actually depower them, but I'm not sure if he's going to need to. He's just muscling all the way in. He's heard the fighting. There's an Immortal on the way that's not even halfway back.
Yeah, unfortunately, that looks to be all she wrote already. A bit of an unceremonious game 1. RiSky just They're going for the big all-in, and it's working out in spades. Goodbye to all your tier 3 tech. Goodbye, Immortals. And the Archon plugs the hole nicely there against the Lings, but the writing is on the wall, and the numbers do not lie. The soup does not lie. It's just too much there on the dance floor. Goodbye, Prism, which had an Immortal in it, by the way. Rip. RiSky takes game 1.
Out there, and boy, was that short and sweet. See that timer? Like 5 minutes 30, and RiSky's already cleaned up game number 1, and that's not what I expected there. I thought Blysk, with his tendency to be poking out on the map, would have been able to detect something like that, but I suppose going for the build that he did, popping those 2 cheeky adepts in there and then losing them, meant he actually had to stay at home because he needs to defend his natural as well.
Yeah. It's one of those weird situations, though, right, where it feels like, oh, he's got the extra gateways, which means he has unit production. He doesn't have a third base, which means that he should be able to handle like a big counterattack, right? He's got more production, but Blysk was actually not putting a lot of eggs into the production basket. He was putting them into the tech basket. He was going for a Templar Archives. He's getting a Robo and a Twilight Council all at once. Obviously, you can't get the Templar Archives with that Twilight Council. And that means he was getting ready for like the next phase. And RiSky just interrupted that plan. He's stuck. Like Blysk was riding his plan bike down the road, and RiSky just speared a stick right into the spokes of that wheel, and that bike crashed forward, Blysk ripping his face off on the pavement.
That's quite a visceral image, but yeah, I mean,
the visceral game, Zeph. It's serious.
There's not even much to show here, right? There's just Blysk dying, essentially. As much as I hate to say it, it was. You know, that was all she wrote. Just completely unprepared, had no idea it was coming, and it was too late. You know, maybe if he had have gone directly into an Immortal instead of the Warp Prism because he wasn't planning for that cheeky drop build, there could have been a chance, but even then you'd be relying on a single Immortal to hold off that entire flood of Roach, Ravager, and Ling. So I think he's going to have to rethink that opener a bit for game number 2.
I actually like what Blysk was going for there. None of what he did was a normal PvZ build. I like that he went for a fast, Templar Archives to try and get a quicker tier 3 tech out there on the map and try and get those Archons out there. Maybe even follow up with Storm. But I think maybe he just didn't see the Roach Warren or didn't get enough information with those adepts when he was trying to get that drone damage. And it's almost a build order loss, really, that game number 1 there for Blysk against RiSky. We are in game 2 as loading up here on Eternal Empire.
Yes. And we tend to get some pretty good long games out on this map. So he is hoping this one gives Blysk a bit more of a chance to show what he's made of. It's going to be a hard-fought battle still against this man. In the top right, spawning in the red, it is RiSky.
Right, went for a bit of a risky business in game 1, but it paid off for him against this kid in the bottom left, the Singaporean Protoss, the best Protoss from that country. It is Blysk. My boy Tommy. Remember meeting him back at was it ACL Sydney? I want to say 2012? It's a solid 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, real friendly dude. And also actually a very good caster. I don't know if you've ever casted with him as a guest.
No, I haven't. Oh, actually, maybe I did at that tournament because he got eliminated. I remember him not feeling great, and I thought, oh, let's get him on the casting desk. I think he actually asked to be.
Yeah, yeah.
It was literally 8 years ago, so it's hard to recall.
Jobs were in trouble. he's very great. But yeah, it's going to have to come up with something else a little spicier for this match. I agree with your sentiment that I liked the approach to it, doing something a little different rather than the stock standard Protoss. Didn't work out in that game, but here we go. He's got another chance here.
And this time, Blysk is going for something a little bit more normal. It's the Nexus Cybercore back at home, no 2-gate opener. And I mean, I like that. I think that even if you just go for a regular economic opener, that's the kind of drone damage you'd expect to get with a couple of depths. 3 maximum, I'd say, or 4 if the Zerg's not dotting their I's and crossing their T's and dotting their lowercase J's.
Yeah. Popping a little probe up there in the corner. One interesting thing I've seen him do is go with a Stargate, and it looks like a really normal opener. He gets an Oracle. pops that out into the drone line, gets some kills. But the other thing that he does sometimes from there is get himself a Twilight and go into Adept Glaives. And usually when someone's going Adept Glaives, it's somewhat scoutable if you can get Overlord in the main, and you know that it comes very, very early, like before 5 minutes. But when you go Stargate first, it gets delayed a bit, and I thought that was a really nice way to sort of shake it up, because the Zerg was probably not thinking about Glaive Adepts at that point in the game. But we'll see where he goes from here with the Stargate. He's still got that probe hiding up here. Looks like RiSky's party may just miss it.
Yeah, may just. We got that Adept here poking at the front of the Zerg. Of course, not really looking for damage, just mainly sending out the shade forward to see what the Zerg's got as far as drone saturation goes. And RiSky's Ling just gets past that probe, does not see it. So Blysk could go for something a little sinister with that probe in the top left of the map. We'll keep our eye on it. Shade forward there from Blysk just to make sure RiSky's not sneaking a Roach Warren or a Lair on him or anything like that, which would be pretty wild if RiSky was doing either of those things. Obviously, it is just a Phoenix build from Blysk so far. So he's got himself just the one Phoenix. No Oracle, actually. He started off at Twilight Council instead. Interesting.
And that Overlord does get the information about that Twilight Council as well. So that's really important to understand what the follow-up is going to be. And yeah, he's not even bothering to get spores.
Zeph, I'm going to make a wild prediction here. Proxy Dark Shrine.
I think you're right. I mean, he's going to do something with that probe, and that's the only thing that makes sense.
Yep. I think it's almost certainly Proxy Dark Shrine here. Blysk trying to bamboozle this opponent. Oh, Resonating Glaives. Never mind. The gateway goes down. So just a very dedicated Adept attack. This is without Warp Prism, so it's like a little bit old school. Just like a ton of gateways with Adepts and then just YOLO. It's going to be a 7-gate Adept with Glaives.
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of pumped for the DT option, but I guess he doesn't have a huge amount of gas to work with at the moment. But yeah, this works as well. And this is, again, I think the build that I saw him do, and it can be really nice. The thing is, you got to get across the map without him really
fake third
finding out. Yeah,
there's no way this third's real. But you know what the problem is for Blysk? RiSky is just making units right now. So there's a lot of roaches on the way here for RiSky. He's going to have so many. Oh my god.
Yeah, Blysk. I mean, he does need to go right now. The beauty of the Adepts with the Shade is that they can still get damage no matter what, because you just split them up rather between the bases. But let's see how he goes. He's going to come into the third. There are a few drones to be picked up. He's going to see those roaches, which is making him a little bit sad. He's going to start off by picking up a wing.
Well, the third base is still under siege here. Those Adepts starting to get that damage done. The Roaches moving to intercept. Every single Shade, RiSky kind of has to respect, because, if the Shade completes and nothing's there, then, it's just going to find more and more damage. And that's a good split on the units there from RiSky. Not bringing every single Roach over the third base. He's actually splitting his army up very nicely. Now, the main base is definitely free of units. There's nothing there from the Zerg. But I just don't think this has paid off for Blysk, Seth. He's killed... Oh, okay. He's starting to get a few more drones in the main base. Oracle joining in. Now it's starting to look a little bit better here for Blysk. He's finding a lot more drones there. 13. And the third base still under attack. That Oracle joining in really seemed to be unexpected from RiSky.
Yeah, this is what I like about Blysk build. They're a bit weird. They're not quite the flow of events that you usually expect. So 16 drones killed is awesome. He's put RiSky back on a 34 drone economy. He's still got more Adepts coming. He's getting a Robo behind this, and he's still making some probes. So it looks like he may be thinking about going into a third base, but he's going to have to against the counterattack from RiSky.
What I'm really worried about here for Blysk is the fact that his robos are just on their way to finishing now. He just started a second. His first robo is 2/3 of the way done. RiSky at the moment seems to be intermittently building units and drones. We did see him replenish a few there, but RiSky comes forward. He sees no third base, so RiSky actually might think it's a little bit too... I'm trying not to say risky, but I can't think of a different word. RiSky might think it's too risky to go for an attack there when there's no third base of the Protoss. He's like, oh, well, what else you got? If you don't have a third yet, you're clearly still building units. At the moment, we just see it the depths.
That's a good read, and he's still getting killed. Blysk, this is actually going pretty well for him. Puts RiSky back down to that 30-odd drone count again, and this is exactly the kind of thing you need to be getting up against RiSky, because if he gets that economy, he's going to run away with the game. And this third is actually getting quite hurt as well. I would have loved to see grab the Nexus maybe behind that. Although that said, this is the cue for RiSky to move out. And, you know, he still hasn't quite got enough immortals to hold that position.
Yeah, I think Blysk with double robo, he'll get enough eventually. But that third base is absolutely a pipe dream. That's not happening whatsoever. Just have to cancel that one. Just try and buy time. Let the Zerg just deal with that while his natural gets more and more units out. Robotics Bay is on the way, and this is one of the situations where I think Blysk needs to go immediately into Disruptors. Like, immediately into Disruptors. If he just keeps making Immortals here, RiSky's Roach Ravager counters is going to overwhelm him. In fact, it looks like just primarily Roaches here with Lings.
He's got to pick back up, and I wouldn't even mind like a shield battery or two to make sure that he can't be broken at this spot. But he's got immortals at a time, so that may very well be overkill. Charges not passing anything. This survivors is doing more. This picks up maybe more forward, and not so first in the back line. Rabbit Child go down entry. One of the immortals goes down, one on the left as well.
Yeah, this is looking like it's a little bit all RiSky right now. He is starting to catch up a little bit with those charge lot warp-ins. I think RiSky was expecting this a little bit too much robotics facility production there. The immortal count coming out with those zealots, and he is getting shooed back. Is this actually the end of the game? The answer is no, not really. Blysk has the ability now and a little bit more breathing room to try and get out and take a third base. That he has a little bit more of a complicated army. His immortal count is still not bad. Oh, okay. He's actually going to take off 2 immortals in that War Prism and go for a drop here. Keep in mind that that hatchery is only a few immortal shots away from falling.
Oh, he totally won't.
He totally won't?
He totally wants a hatchery.
Oh, yeah.
Behind this, he is going for the disruptors that you mentioned. And I think Blysk needs to keep doing stuff like this, because RiSky's already catching up on the work count with that aggression. Let up that pressure, and he's going to march up that third again. He's going to get more and more drones, and suddenly that lead you got with all those worker kills isn't going to matter anymore.
Quite right. All right, well, this is a bit of a weird game to say the least. RiSky's going for the Ling counterattack here. A couple long distance binding probes from Blysk. You know, normally when you do that, there's a third on the way. So weirdly enough, RiSky's like, oh, you're trying to take a third here, right? I'm not under attack, right? Wrong. He's totally under attack. There's 3 immortals, a bunch of sentries with force field energy, and 2 disruptors on the back line. Blysk gonna try and make it happen right here with this engagement. The Ravagers trying to drop those biles and zone back the disruptors here, get anything whatsoever. Disruptor Nova goes forward. Blysk, oh, lovely connection there. Actually gets quite a few roaches, and he is gonna pick off that third base. One more shot. There it is. I was gonna say, don't make a liar out of me, Blysk. There it is. He does get it. The Prism, though, in range of the Biles, gets knocked down. Without the Prism, Blysk, oh, man, he won't be able to reinforce this, but does he have enough firepower anyway is the big question here, I feel.
Someone's getting into the mineral line of Blysk at the same time. He does have the gateway up the top left, and kind of reinforced. He needs weapons at home to clean that up, and it's still rolling down to the sentry and immortals, and more than 3 soldiers, like 2 months.
Oh boy, yeah, there's just damage all over the place here from Blysk. He had some warp-ins, but did not have enough to actually stop the flow of Zerglings. And now these 3 immortals are out here just sort of on their lonesome with a handful of charge loss to push back the Ravagers for RiSky. RiSky's feeling so confident he's chasing these units all the way out off creep, dropping biles and even connecting there with the immortals. Not like there's a prism to juggle them. It got biled down ages ago. And that is going to be that for Blysk's map presence. He's lost absolutely everything. And it looked close. It looked like it was getting there. Like Blysk had a little bit